It can be dangerous to be a woman in this world. I don't know what to say. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I want to say something, but I'm scared. I think that both extremes exist and can be very damaging.
Hello and welcome to Hello Moxie. Today I am joined by the amazingly talented Ashley Cox. Ashley is tuning in from lovely Tennessee today, and I am so excited to have her as a guest on the show. She's been a wonderful fan and mutual friend through some other connections that I have. And so the first time we connected, we just hit it off right away. And I'm just jazzed. I'm jazzed. She's here with me today. Ashley, how are you? I'd love for you to tell our listeners a little bit about you. And also tell us what's lighting you up today.
Nicole, thank you so much for having me. It is such an honor and a pleasure to be here with you. I am thrilled for us to have this conversation. And to answer your question, what is lighting me up today? I love this. I just got off a spring concert series with my chorus, with my community chorus, shout out Appalachian Equality Chorus. And it was just an incredible concert series full of so much joy and love and magic and community and connection. And I'm just floating on cloud nine.
Amazing. What is it about singing, especially in a chorus, that really inspires you so much?
I love that. That's, I don't usually get that question. So thank you for asking that. I think the thing that's most inspiring is seeing people from all different backgrounds come together through the joy and connection of music and using our voices to create something that is wholly unique to us. Yes, it may be a song you've heard before. It may be an arrangement others have sang before, but you will never get this same experience anywhere else in the world. And it's just pure magic. It's a lot of hard work making all of the harmonies and learning your parts and singing the right notes. But when it comes together and you're standing on that stage, I'm going to get emotional because I just remember this past weekend, we were in kind of a semicircle. And I remember thinking, this is our last concert for this season. And I'm looking around at the faces in the chorus. And I'm just so moved and so touched that each human there has something special to offer this world and that we're doing it together.
That's beautiful. It's like a beautiful testament to the power of connection and what happens when people come together, united in kind of like a common cause and sharing their unique gifts in connection with other people to create something that is truly like one of a kind that will have a lasting impact on the people who are listening to it. I mean, there's something really beautiful about that power of connection. My aunt is in a choir as well. She's been singing in this choir now for 20 years and a long time. And they travel every summer. They'll go somewhere new across the states. And she came to, I live in DC, and their choir came out to perform for us one summer. And I will tell you, like, they had a full orchestra and it was such like being in the audience and hearing that choir perform. It was so moving in a way that you just could never replicate. You had to be there in the moment to be part of that experience as an audience member, like you could hear, I got the recording and I'd listen to the recording, but it just wasn't the same as actually hearing it live.
It is not. It is some special magic that is created between the connection of the chorus and the audience. And every audience is unique and every experience is unique. And so even though, I often hear people say, like, don't you get tired of singing the same songs? No, because every single time we get up to sing them, it is a wholly different experience for us, for the audience, for the community that it creates in that moment. And it is a different magic every time, but it is always magic.
That's so lovely. What was your favorite song to perform that you performed this weekend?
Easy. Times They Are A-Changin' by Bob Dylan.
Wow.
Yeah, we pulled one from way back. I think 64, 65 is when he released that song. And there is this crescendo. I will share it
Okay.
on LinkedIn. I will share it on LinkedIn and I'll tag you so that
Yeah,
you can hear
please
it.
do.
But there's this crescendo where every single voice, every single part is doing something different, but it all builds and builds and builds. And we actually got the chance to sing it in this rotunda in the Performing Arts Center that we were at this weekend that had the most incredible acoustics. And we're all standing in a circle in this rotunda, and we had someone filming us. And it just was sheer magic singing that together in that moment. And after we finished the crescendo, we all just burst into claps and laughter and cheers and tears and all of the like it was all of the emotions. But every time we performed it for the crowd, it was just a breathtaking moment. And we, I think, probably got the loudest applause on that song every week.
Times they are changing. So for our listeners who may not be familiar with Bob Dylan, let's teach them about Bob Dylan. What are some of the lyrics from that song? I won't ask you to sing it because that would be like putting you on the spot. But like, could you share?
I mean,
I would love it if you would sing it, but I will not. I will not make you sing it.
I've been singing it all around the house for months and months now. So some of the lyrics are, "Come mothers and fathers throughout the land," and part of it is kind of a calling in, right? We're calling in the mothers and fathers that the times they are a changing, and you no longer have command of your sons and daughters. They have agency and free will, and they're fighting for the rights that they believe in and that they're excited to work toward. And so we sing, for the times they are changing. If you don't understand, get out of the way. If you are currently last, you will be first. And it's just an incredible, Bob Dylan is a master with lyrics. He really just, every lyric is meaningful. It tells a story. It puts you on a journey. And the arrangement for this one was just truly incredible. Now, Bob Dylan is not the world's best singer, okay? But he is one of the world's best lyricists, and really pulling in messages that have meaning and that matter. And I think we didn't sing every single lyric he wrote for that song because there's lots of verses to it, but we sang two primary verses from it. And those two verses really just called you in and called you to stand up for what is right and what you believe in, and to fight for the path forward where we can all be seen and loved and valued and respected.
I love that. Such a relevant and very resonant message for the time that we're in today. And it's amazing how, what did you notice? Like as you were singing that and as the audience was listening, like what is that message of that song? How does it kind of like inspire you in today's world?
I think our artistic director, Dr. Alan Stevens, who conducts the chorus, said it best when he said that sometimes we have to break away from what has been known, what has been comfortable, into what we know is right. And that calls us to have courage. We have to call, ourselves into the moment, to use our voices for good. And that's what the chorus is all about. The name Appalachian Equality Chorus is very intentional. And it was actually born out of the Knoxville Gay Men's Chorus. So they even built upon their own mission to say, we want to welcome all voices, all people into this space. And I think that's what the times they are a changin' does. It calls us to use our voices in ways that matter and in ways that can support those around us, that can lift up historically marginalized communities and people, and to be able to say, this isn't right. We should all be able to live on this earth together with joy and with love and with safety. And it's really special to be a part of this community chorus where you can see what's possible for this world. You feel that hope that one day we can all get there together.
Oh my gosh, I have the goosebumps. That was so powerful. What do you think? I think there may be people at this time who may feel a lot of fear of standing up and using their voice, right? And I felt like that a lot of people in my life, there've been experiences where I didn't even know I was afraid. And then I look back and I'm like, I was definitely afraid to really speak up
Yes.
and claim ownership for what I believed and what I knew was true. And there's a lot of risk involved with speaking up and using your voice. What advice would you give for people who may be listening, who may be feeling like this deep pull or call that they want to speak up, but they don't know that they're lacking maybe the courage or the conviction to share? What would your advice be for someone who might be in that situation, to help them find that courage inside of themselves to use their voice in the way that is congruent with who they are and their values?
Thank you for asking this, because I think that any of us who are on this journey of finding our voices and speaking up, we have experienced the same thing. I don't know what to say. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I want to say something, but I'm scared. And I think the most pivotal things for me have been talking with people who are different from me, who have different lived experiences, who have faced different types of discrimination, hate, racism, misogyny, etc., and understanding from their experiences how dangerous, like truly physically dangerous it is for them to speak up. And often I have safety because of who I am. I'm a cis white woman. I have a lot of privilege that a lot of my friends and peers and community members don't have. And so allowing myself to remember that I am safe and that I have an opportunity to speak up where someone who truly isn't safe doesn't have that same access or opportunity. And knowing also that it can be dangerous to be a woman in this world, and that we have, allies as women who also speak up for us when it's not safe for us. So it's kind of that, when you're climbing the ladder, you're reaching back and you're grabbing the hand of the person behind you and you're pulling everyone with you. It's not that you have to go out there and be the most prolific speaker and have the most profound message or to be involved in every single thing, but find one small thing today where you can lend your voice or lend your talents or lend your time and start small. You don't have to become an overnight powerhouse. You get to start small. And once you do, it starts to build momentum and you start to build courage. Courage doesn't come because you're just automatically blessed with it. Courage comes from getting in the weeds, getting mud on your face, falling down and making mistakes. I've been called out for saying the wrong thing. And you learn that way. That's the only way we can learn. And so don't be afraid to use your voice, because it matters and every single voice counts.
Yes. And I love what you shared too, is that you don't have to be like this overnight standing on a stage, use your voice in that way. There's many different ways you can use your voice.
Join a community choir.
Right, exactly. Like being able to identify what is it that is most aligned with your strengths and gifts, and contributing in a way that is most congruent with that. As you can clearly see, I love to be in front of a microphone. If I could be in front of a microphone all day long, I would just be chatting. People would be like, shut up, Nicole. We don't want to hear you anymore. But I will still be on my microphone. But not everyone. That's not everyone's gift. And so if that's you, like maybe your gift might be singing, but maybe your gift might be writing. Maybe your gift might be art. Maybe your gift might be organization. Maybe you're a fantastic organizer and you're great with like administrative details. How can you get involved in a cause that really allows you to leverage those gifts? That is using your voice. That is contributing. It makes me think of like Lilly Ledbetter, who, if you know the Lilly Ledbetter Act, she was tipped off that she had been paid less than her peers for years. And an anonymous person tipped her off. And I think to myself, like, man, that anonymous person never was on this big stage, but think of the impact that one little, not little, they're not little in any stretch of the imagination, but that one small action had such a cascading effect that has significantly increased equality for women and for minorities in the workplace since that happened. So like you said, like it doesn't need to be this big grand thing. It can just be small actions. And it really helps. It really aligns well with this Moxie method, which is a framework I've developed, which talks about what you can think about it. Like when you think about fear and courage, you think about a seed. A seed doesn't grow. It's not planted on the top of the earth and grows that way. It is literally buried in the dirt. Like a plant cannot grow unless it's buried first in the dark with no light to guide them, just like their inner knowing, their inner like DNA of that seed that's telling them this is what you need to do. And you have to push through the dirt to find your way. And I think that you hit the nail on the head. Like courage is stepping into that fear. Like, you know that it's the right thing, but you don't, it's scary. And that's how you grow, is you have to push forward in that way.
Well, and even if you think about the different types of plants, without getting too nerdy into horticultural.
We can go there. I love it.
There. But there are some plants that require a longer time underground, building a strong root system before they ever sprout above, and sometimes years. And so it's okay to be quietly working on these things underground before anything blooms from the surface. And it may never bloom from the surface in the way that you think. Think about potatoes. Stuff blooms all on the top of potatoes, but where do the actual vegetables come from themselves? They are underground. They never rise above. They never have this big, prolific, beautiful, majestic flowering. They don't have, some showy vegetable growing out of a vine. They're not like tomatoes where you can see the fruit of that labor and it's beautiful and it's vibrant and you can see them from the porch in the garden way off in the distance. You're like, wow, look at those tomatoes. They're really popping. But potatoes, they're a powerhouse food, right? You can do anything with a potato. You can fry them, you can bake them, you can whatever. And so, we can't compare potatoes to tomatoes. They're both delicious, but they grow very differently. They have different purposes. They have different functions. And so, maybe you're a potato, but everybody loves potatoes.
So beautiful too. I mean, that just invites so much grace for ourselves too, because I don't know about you. Like sometimes I find myself in comparisonitis land.
Totally.
Comparisonitis land, and when I'm in those moments where I might be like, comparing myself to someone who is like massively amazing at this one skill that I'm not great at, it can be very easy, especially as women, for us to be like, oh, I'm not great at this.
Yeah.
But you weren't, like, you hit the nail on the head. Like, you were born to be you, whether that's a potato or a tomato or an olive or an apple or a pear or whatever it is. You were born to be you, and you are distinctly different than anyone else on the planet.
Exactly.
And isn't that beautiful?
It's so beautiful. I love that you say that you were born to be you, because that's the song that we close the show out with. Lady Gaga's Born This Way. And it was such a crowd favorite. I mean, it really allowed the whole community. And we had dancers out front, like putting on a show. And it was just incredible because it was a celebration of every single person belongs. And you were born exactly how you were supposed to be. And you are not broken, and you are not wrong, and you are not less than. You are whole and beautiful just the way that you are.
Love that. So beautiful. Oh, Ashley, I'm like still in chills. Like, geez, girl, you're just like dropping.
It's been such a journey for me though, as well. Like you say, there's comparisonitis. There's, am I going to say the wrong thing? Am I going to do the wrong thing? Am I going to be offensive? The last thing I want to do in this world is to offend somebody, because each of us are deserving of love. And it's hard sometimes. I've definitely let that hold me back in the past, but I'm finding my voice more and more every single day, every month, every year. And it's been a journey. It's been a journey of finding my voice. When I was little, I was told you talk too much consistently across the board, and was always getting marks for talking too much in school and being in trouble and having to sit by the teacher's desk, which did not coincidentally stop me from talking. I just had to turn around to do the talking. But it also hampered my ability to believe in myself and my voice. And I didn't speak up for many, many years. I didn't speak up for other people. I didn't speak up for myself. And so part of this journey has been growing into my own voice to be able to advocate for myself and to love myself so that I can then reach out and advocate for others and love others with that gift. And so when people think like, oh gosh, Ashley's got it all together. And no, I do not. It is a journey. And I think it's going to be a lifelong journey, and it's absolutely worth one going on.
I love what you shared there about it being a lifelong journey, because sometimes I think we get so caught up in like reaching this destination point, like, okay, I'm trying to get here. And if I can just get there, then I'll be complete. Then I'll be whole. Then everything will be okay. Yes. Then I'm going to feel perfectly happy, fulfilled all the time, right? Like as if there's this like endpoint destination. But I love the grace that you've invited there to be aware that there is no end destination, and that it is an evolution and a journey. And that's what makes it so beautiful and makes it so much more meaningful and so much more of a growth opportunity for us. And it just invites grace in to be like, you make mistakes sometimes, and it's okay that you don't have it all figured out. And it's okay. Maybe you wanted to use your voice in the situation and you didn't. Well, you know what? It's okay. You learn, and maybe you try again another time, or maybe you were too afraid to take this leap, or, you didn't know because you were ignorant about something that you hadn't learned before. You can do it again.
Yeah.
You can try. And tomorrow's another day. You can always try again. There's no like demerit system where, oh my gosh, you've got to reach this end point by this date, and otherwise you're doomed.
We put so much unnecessary pressure on ourselves. Like, sometimes it's internal pressure, sometimes it's external pressure and expectations and things, to be further or to achieve more or to be more polished or be more of an adult or whatever it is that we've, put on ourselves or society has put on us. But I think that's the beautiful thing about life, is that we all get to continue learning and growing. It's when you stop that is the concern. It's when you refuse to take in new information that allows you to see something from a different perspective or to form a different opinion. The things I believe today haven't always been the things I believed. The things I speak for today haven't always been the things I've spoken for in the past. And I think that's what's really beautiful, is that you get to grow and learn and evolve and become the best version of you that is possible. Not the best version of every human ever to exist on the entire face of the earth, the best version of you. And if at the end of the day, you can go to sleep at night and you can feel proud that you were a better person today than you were yesterday, I mean, what more can you ask for?
Yeah. I love what you shared there about like the danger that you're not growing is when you refuse to have an open mind to new ideas. How do you recommend people really put themselves in the mindset or in the place or in the situation where they are truly having an open mind and wanting to seek opposing viewpoints?
First, you have to be willing to admit you could be wrong. And I think that's a hard step for people to come to. So kind of going back a little bit, I was raised in West Virginia. That's home for me. And it is a very, very homogenous space, right? I really didn't encounter a lot of people who were very different from me until I went to college. And so I think sometimes we have to be willing to put ourselves in places where it's not the same. The people are not the same. The cultures are not the same. The ethnicities are not the same. The life experiences are not the same. The socioeconomic statuses are not the same. Because when we're in those spaces and we're not centered in whatever our identity is, when our identity is not centered, it really forces you to sit back and listen and to consider that these people that we're sitting in this room with have different experiences that I may not ever fully understand. I may be able to listen and hear and kind of take that in, but I will never understand what it is like to be a Black woman living in the United States of America. I will never understand that at my core, but I can listen, and I can allow that person to share with me her journey, her story. It's so interesting. We keep talking about all these topics. We had a song in the show called Let Me Listen, and that was the whole premise behind it. The composer sat down with the BIPOC community, and just said, let me listen. I want to hear your story. It's not mine to share. It's not mine to judge. It's not mine to say this is right or wrong, but I get to sit and I get to listen and I get to hold your story. And if we could all just listen to each other's stories a little bit more without jumping to a conclusion or an assumption or a judgment or feeling that we have to insert ourselves, we would make so much more progress in loving each other.
So true. Oh man. I love what you shared about you have to be willing to admit that you could be wrong. I was just on a beautiful trip to Scotland with my mother and my two sisters last week. And so it's my sister and my sister-in-law, but she's my sister, she'll always be my sister. I adore her. Adore both of them. Like I love them to death. And politically, we're on very different sides of the spectrum. And I think politically, if you are in this country right now, it's very polarizing. It's very rare to find someone who just is lukewarm about our political climate. And I don't want this to turn into like a huge political discussion, but I will say my sisters and I have we're on a different political spectrum. And it's been hard for me to, like, in the past, actually admit that I could be wrong, like you said. And so on this trip, I was determined that I was going to give them the space to share with me what they believed and explain it to me from their perspective without any sort of rebuttal. And so we're on this hike, and it's this beautiful hike. And I was like, you know what? I asked them, I said, you know what? I'm just going to listen. I'm not going to say anything. And I want you to just share with me, your perspective on this particular topic. And I'm not going to jump in and refute it. I just want to listen and ask questions. And it ended up being like this really beautiful conversation that we had for probably 45 minutes, and it didn't get heated. There was no anger. There was no animosity. There was a genuine curiosity about really trying to understand their perspective. And what happened was, at the beginning of the conversation, I'd always felt very scared, not scared, but just I would say I was a little bit afraid to actually really go there, because I didn't know how bad it would get. And I didn't,
and you're worried about those relationships. You don't want to destroy that relationship, but you want to hear, you want to understand, how did you get to this conclusion, but without feeling like you're being attacked or without attacking them.
Like it being personal, right?
That's totally understandable. Personal. I think we could probably all relate to that at some point.
Yes. Right. And so by the end of it, though, what ended up happening is, I was able to see them in a completely different way than I had before. And I was able to separate them from the issues. I didn't see them as the issues. Right. And so it actually kind of brought us together, right? We were able to grow closer through that experience, because there was an openness, and in return, they were open to me. They were listening to what I had to say too. And we were having this exchange where there was validation happening, where I'd share something and they'd say, oh, I could see how you could see it that way.
Yes.
And in return, I could see how you could see it that way. And I realized there's a lot of complexity with these issues and challenges that we're facing. And but that also, it's not personal. I can separate the issue from the person and realize I can still love this person, even if we can disagree on this particular issue. Which was a really great, powerful experience for me. I needed that.
Yes, good. I'm so glad. I think the thing that really continues to get in the way of us having more understanding is that we're not having conversations anymore. We're just having, tit for tat matches. Well, you say this. Well, I'm going to say this. You say this. I'm going to say this. And it's not listening to understand. It's listening to respond. And this is what I talk with my leaders about all the time. I'm like, you don't need to listen to respond to your employees. You need to listen to understand. And I promise when you listen to understand, you're going to make so much more progress. You're going to have a deeper, probably empathy for that person and where they're coming from. You're going to have a better communication with them because they're going to feel open and they're going to feel validated, even if you say nothing. I tell my leaders, I'm like, listen, sometimes your job is just to ask the question and then shut your mouth. It is not for you to have all the ideas or all the opinions or all the answers. It's literally to just ask a good question and then sit back and listen. And when you stop talking, and I'll tell them, I'm like, count to 10 on your fingers. If you got to hide your fingers under the desk, behind your back, in your lap, ask a question and then just stop talking. Because a lot of times what people do is say, well, what do you think about this? Well, here's what I think about this. And we steamroll people. But you've got to have that time and that space to process. And what you did, Nicole, was so beautiful. I'm not going to rebut. I just would like to ask some questions. And my favorite question for literally any situation in life, whether it's work or it's personal relationships or it's volunteer work, it just starts with, help me understand. Help me understand why you feel this way about that. Help me understand why you made this decision. Help me understand why we're behind on production, whatever it is. It literally can work in every situation because it doesn't say, I'm demanding something from you. I'm expecting a certain answer. I'm going to fight you when you give me an answer that I don't like. Like a lot of times we hear people say, well, you need to defend that. Or my favorite that I've been told online is, how did they put it? It's so funny. Enlighten me. I'm like, immediately, I'm not responding to that. That's me. I'm like, I will not be enlightening you, but I'm happy to share my perspective and how I got there.
Yeah.
Right. And when we say, help me understand, it allows people to share their perspective and how they got there without feeling like they've got to put their defenses up.
Yes. So true. I love what you shared too about how that invites empathy. Okay. So do you think there's a danger of having too much empathy in the workplace?
Ooh, I love this question. One of the things I got dinged for as a young leader was being too compassionate, which then made me do a 180 and be on the opposite end and kind of rule with an iron fist. And that did not work. I think that both extremes exist and can be very damaging. A lot of times when we're overly empathetic or compassionate, that's when we get taken advantage of. That's when we don't get things done. That's when other people can steamroll us. But then on the other end, if we're too harsh, then we never invite real collaboration and teamwork and community and conversation. But there is that beautiful happy medium where we can be both and. We can be both empathetic and set clear expectations. And that even includes in conversations. In this conversation, here are our ground rules. This is how we have a conversation that's productive and respectful, and everybody walks away with their dignity intact. And so that could be whether it's a political conversation, a conversation within your work team, a conversation within your family unit. We can set boundaries and have expectations and not allow people to be either dominating in the conversation or, be the one that's getting taken advantage of. And I think that we need more of that. Is there a perfect balance? No. I think it really depends on who's in the conversation, what the topic is, your familiarity with one another. And sometimes there's situations where we need to extend more empathy. And there's times where we need to set clearer boundaries and expectations. And so we have to be emotionally intelligent to kind of suss out when those opportunities and those challenges are going to present themselves. And also, back to something I said earlier, Nicole, being able to admit when we've chosen wrongly in the moment and saying, you know what, this conversation isn't going the way that I wanted it to. Let's back up for a minute and take a beat. and maybe set a different boundary or set a different expectation.
I think what you're highlighting is that there's a tension between these two extremes, between being empathetic and being, what would you call the opposite of empathetic?
Anarchist.
Iron-fisted.
Iron-fisted works. I said anarchist.
Yeah. Like dictator or something,
right.
but
iron-fisted. I usually say, rule with an iron fist, or they like to beat people over with a club.
Yeah. So it's like empathy on one extreme, iron fist on the other extreme. And there's a tension between these two things, which I think like that's so true for so many things in our lives, like even our phones, right? There's a tension between like this phone can help us be really productivity, but also can be extremely like, time suck. So like, it's the tension. It's the like living in the tension, being able to navigate the tension between these two extremes with what you mentioned, emotional intelligence. So my last question for you, and then I promise we're going to talk about the woman in history because we could just go on and on. So how would you recommend people build their emotional intelligence muscle so that they can manage that tension much more effectively? When they're interacting with people?
It starts with you first. It absolutely starts with you. And one of the things we work on with my clients is really building that self-awareness. How did you feel in this moment? What was the initial emotional reaction that you had? What we call the visceral response, because we're going to have a visceral response. Every single one of us. It's very human for something to happen and we immediately go, shock, awe, anger, happy, whatever it is, right? Like we have that emotional response. It's whether or not you act from that or you have an intentional response. So we're either having that visceral reaction or an intentional response. And so I always tell people, think of how you are feeling and being and wanting to say in that moment and how you might give yourself a pause. 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day. Sometimes things really are triggering and you might need more space. You have to be aware of how you're coming into that conversation. And if you're coming into it based in your values, based in integrity, based in respect for the other person. And if you're not coming with all the goods, then it's probably not a conversation you need to come into, at least unprepared. And so once we are able to understand ourselves better, we can see it happening in other people. And we can say, you know what, this person's having an emotional reaction right now. They're having a visceral reaction. Maybe now's not the time to have this conversation. And you can invite that space to say, hey, this isn't the way I want to have this conversation right now. Let's, take 15 minutes, kind of gather our thoughts and come back. So now we're able to help to not control the environment, but facilitate better conversations in the environment.
That's really beautiful. So the first step is becoming aware of what your emotions are and being able to recognize them, and then creating space before you respond. So whether that space you mentioned, whether that space is a minute or half an hour or a day, like inserting space to process whatever emotion you'll be feeling and then redirect whatever that is. Acknowledging though that emotion, I think it's important for us to always, whatever emotion's coming up, validate that instead of being like, that's wrong, I shouldn't feel that way, but like,
it's totally valid.
Let it be. Yeah. Let it be what it is. It's just part of the human experience to feel all the emotions. There's no good or bad. Being angry is teaching us something. Being sad is teaching us something. There's something we can learn from that. So I love that, like being aware of it and validating whatever you might be experiencing, and then giving yourself space in turn to how you're going to respond shows so much respect. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And even on the other end of that is recognizing that other person that you're interacting with is also validated in their emotional reaction and what they're feeling and what they're experiencing and where that's coming from. And so we have to be really mindful not to judge someone else's emotional reaction. A lot of times you hear like, well, why are you blowing this out of proportion? To them, it might be a really big deal. and you don't know the whole context. You don't know the story that they come to this conversation with. And so we also have to make sure that we're mindful of giving other people the space to process and to be in their emotion and to be in their reaction. And I always tell people we have to assume positive intent. We have to assume that this person didn't come into this conversation to be a bully or be a jerk or, be whatever. But how many people have actually had emotional training to recognize, to name, to process, to, understand how it is they're showing up in the world? Most people haven't. And so, of course,
unless you go to therapy.
Yes. And let me tell you, I am a product of years of therapy.
Me too.
I am always telling everybody, I think therapy would be really helpful. This will be good for you. Let me tell you about my story. But that's the thing, you're speaking with people who don't have processing or coping tools. And that makes a huge difference. If we all just gave each other a little bit more grace, it would make a world of difference. It really would.
Amen. So true. Well, I would love to know, shifting gears a little bit, who is a woman in history that has inspired you? And I'd love for you to tell our listeners a story about her.
Yeah. I know she's currently making history, but I think,
cool.
Yes, I think that she is just one of my modern day heroes or heroines. And her name is Emily Calandrelli. She is from West Virginia, and she is an MIT aerospace engineer. She's a #1 New York Times bestseller. She is a brilliant scientist who creates fun, accessible science for children and specifically advocates for girls in STEM. And what I love about her is that I can relate to her so much because we come from a state that is often the butt end of jokes, that everyone says, oh, West Virginia is just full of a bunch of, dumb hillbillies. And that can be really damaging on a child growing up in a state where you don't have a lot of access to opportunities, to education, to resources, to food, to clothing, to housing. It's a very impoverished state. And it is a state, I get emotional talking about it, full of some of the most kind-hearted people and hardworking people. And my family's been there for generations. And to know that you can go beyond what you're told or thought you can do and literally fly into space, because Emily was the 100th woman to fly into space this past year. And I remember watching her with tears streaming down my face, thinking, every little girl in West Virginia can see her go to space and think that's possible for me. And one of my favorite parts about Emily is she's so darn endearing, and she's just so human in everything she does. So one of our staple foods in West Virginia are called pepperoni rolls. And it was a hand sandwich that coal miners could take into the mines that didn't need to be refrigerated. It didn't need to be heated. And it's something that every West Virginian loves, right? And everybody outside of the state is like, what is this? It's just pepperoni inside of a bread. Okay, that's it. It's not fancy. But right before her flight, Emily had that pepperoni roll that she had brought from West Virginia. And she said, I'm taking a piece of West Virginia with me in my belly. And she was eating it. And I responded, girl, you are more than enough to be going to space. You didn't need to bring that pepperoni roll. But the fact that you did just endeared you to me even more. But what I love about her is that she is not only brilliant, funny, kind, and amazing in all the ways, but she's fighting for women's equal rights every step of the way. She's fighting for children in West Virginia. She raised, I think it was $50,000 to feed children in West Virginia. She took necklaces into outer space that she gives out to little girls that she meets to inspire them to reach for the stars. And she's just magnificent in every way, shape, or form. And to think that she came from a state like West Virginia just makes me incredibly proud.
Thank you for sharing that. That was so incredibly touching.
Thank
Yeah. Very, very powerful. And I didn't even know about her. And now I
And
do.
now
And
you
I'm so
do.
grateful that I do.
She's incredible.
Yeah.
Anybody that has children, she's got some incredible shows. Emily's Wonder Lab, where she teaches science experiments in a fun way. I wish I had an Emily when I was a little girl, because I feel like I could have been a scientist. She has books, so many books. I think she's 7 or 8 children's books now that just make science fun and approachable. And she's all over social media doing the cutest things and the most inspiring talks and standing in front of rooms full of people saying we cannot take away programs that support women in STEM. And I think that using her platform and using her voice to make a difference in the way that women are treated in the sciences, the access that women have, the power that women are able to claim for themselves by stepping into roles in very male-dominated industries, really shows you that she is in full alignment with her values and her integrity. And it comes back to our conversation about find your place to make a difference and use your voice. And it started small and it has grown into something truly inspiring to watch with Emily.
Yeah, I love what you shared about like she found the power to claim her voice and to use her voice. And I think that's such a beautiful way to state that. Like, as women, we have the power to choose whatever we want. And we don't have to let whatever circumstances that we're in deter us, whatever barriers might be in our way. There's 2 paths you can take. You can take the path of like, okay, I'm a victim. I have these barriers that have been placed in my path and, it's not possible for me. Or we can say, why not? Why not? I have the power. I have the ability to create something new and bold and congruent with who I am. I love that she's living that. I'd be curious, like, what was she like as a child? Do you know, like, what she was like as a little girl?
I can only imagine vibrant and precocious.
Yes. I'm like super curious about that.
She shares a lot about, I haven't come across anything specifically about her childhood, but she shares a lot about her just growing up and going to school and, meeting her husband and having her family and going to space. And that she's not just one thing. She's a multifaceted, brilliant human being who gets to be all of these things together. And so many times I think we feel like we have to be this identity. Like I am a mom, or I am a scientist, or I am a business owner, or I am a whatever. And we kind of silo ourselves. And what I love so much about Emily and respect about her is that she really shows you the whole picture. Sometimes I'm really goofy. Sometimes I'm a mom. Sometimes I'm a brilliant scientist. Sometimes I'm an artist creating something. Sometimes I'm flying into outer space. Like she pulls all of those together and she says that, you don't have to be one or the other. You get to be all of these beautiful things. And an interesting story about her flight to space. I was thinking that I was saying that backwards, but I got it right. Is that when she got back to Earth, they posted the video of her reaction, and her reaction was just, you've got to go watch it, Nicole, and everybody listening. It was what I would imagine I would react to being able to see our planet from outer space. She just was enamored and enthralled, and she just was like, oh my gosh, it's our planet. It's our planet. And she related it to seeing your baby for the first time. And so when she got back to Earth, small-minded, hateful men had comments to say on the internet, as they do. And she took a day to process and to be in her emotions about that. She was very, very open and transparent about, how hurtful that was to read and to see after having such a once in a lifetime experience. And then she came back and she said, I will not give small-minded men any more attention than they deserve on the internet. And she goes, I'm proud of that reaction. And I was like, yes, you should be. Beautiful. Because she is in touch with her emotions, and it is okay to be an emotional human being who experiences something so incredible and mind blowing. Like I can't even wrap my mind around what that might be like. and to have a very human reaction. So how dare you limit someone's ability to emote, because every single emotion is precious and I want to feel them all.
Yes. And I love how she just owned it. Like, I think that's a beautiful example to us as women. Sometimes if we do get criticism or feedback, sometimes a natural response, I know for me in the past has been, if someone's criticizing me, oh no, I did something wrong and I need to change whatever I did. And obviously, you know, there are going to be times when that may be true, but also it is so important for us as women to just be confident in whatever it is that we bring to the table and not feel ashamed for our emotional reactions or whatever the case may be, but to just find confidence in that. Like going back to the earlier, like whether you're the potato or the tomato or whatever, like own who you are and live with confidence. And if someone doesn't like it or agree with it, like it's them, it's not you.
Exactly.
Like you don't have to like change yourself or abandon yourself because someone else doesn't like it, you know?
Or because someone else is different. Some people don't have 9,623 emotions like I do. That's fine.
That's true. I feel like I'm with you, Ashley. I feel them all too.
I've got them all, and they are strong.
And powerful and potent and beautiful,
and it's
right?
what
like
makes me. And so if someone wants to strip that away, shame on them. Shame on them.
Yeah.
Don't strip someone else's humanity away. It is not yours to take. And that comes back to our conversation. When we go into these conversations, we can't strip each other's humanity away. We have to see the humanity in you and hope that they see the humanity in you as well.
So beautiful.
This conversation was so many fun places I wasn't expecting today.
Oh,
Thank you
I know.
for
It's
asking
it's been
brilliant
such
questions.
an amazing, such an amazing conversation. I've loved every second of it. My last and final question for you, Ashley, is what does the word Moxie mean to you?
I've been thinking about this because I know you ask this every show. And for me, Moxie means I will not hold myself back because others don't think I can.
Oh, that is so good. I will not hold myself back because others don't think I can. That's beautiful, Ashley. That's so powerful.
Yeah.
I want to put that on my wall.
Me too. So coming soon from Nicole and Ashley.
I will not hold myself back because others don't think I can. Oh, that is so powerful. Yeah. I'm so in love with that definition. And it's so beautiful. Like everyone who comes on the show has a different definition.
I know.
And
I love that part of the show. And it means something different to each of us, and it inspires us in different ways. And I just think, I think of the Emilys. I think of Pearl S. Buck came from West Virginia, and she was the first woman to win a Nobel Prize in literature in America. I think of Katherine Johnson. Most people know her from Hidden Figures, the movie with Taraji P. Henson. And she was the mathematician that literally sent John Glenn into space. And I think of all these women in our history in West Virginia alone, and then in the United States, who've come before and who've said, you think I can't, watch me. And so I just think, gosh, Moxie, Emily, Pearl, Catherine, Ashley, Nicole, you listening, we've got the Moxie.
Yes, for anyone listening, you've got the Moxie. The fact that you're listening to the show means you've got the Moxie. Yes. So beautiful. Oh, I don't even know how to end the show today, Ashley. I want to just end it with that beautiful moment. It's been my honor to host you. You've been such a phenomenal guest. Thank you for rolling with all my questions. You did a beautiful job, and I'm so inspired by you and by your Moxie. And keep singing, keep using that beautiful voice of yours. I can't wait to see where it takes you. And I love the message that you're putting out into the world, and the work that you're doing is so, so, so important. So don't stop. And until next time, say hello, Moxie. That's a wrap for today's episode of Hello Moxie. I hope you felt that unbreakable thread connecting you to the women of the past, to the trailblazing pioneers of today. Their stories of audacity, resilience, and courage are a powerful reminder of what's possible for you when you choose to live with Moxie.